Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. About Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 called monetary awareness.
Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RT News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, we're going to be talking about the top 5 countries that's moving away from the dollar. And so it's very interesting how we're only 3 days into the new year. And there's an interesting article highlighting how 5 countries, based upon prior issues dealing with the United States government, has already strategically placed themselves outside of the full-fledged reign of the dollar. And so based upon how last year ended, I would imagine that we can expect more news such as this throughout this year. But before I dive into today's article, as always,
Next recession.
Recession will be
a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
a U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
So as I mentioned today, I just have one article highlighting 5 countries that are all making moves away from the dollar, aka de-dollarization. And so more importantly, if you're interested in finding out more, feel free to read through the entire article yourself. I just want to skim through the surface, give you something to think about. But more importantly, if you find this information informative, don't be afraid to give it a thumbs up, as well as share this information so more of your family and friends can find out what's going on around them. So let's dive into this article. So here's an article came out yesterday from RT, and it says top 5 countries opting to ditch US dollar and the reasons behind their move. So here it shows George Washington with a black eye, barely can see the eye. And so scroll down a little bit more, give you some details. It says the past year was full of events that inevitably split the global geopolitical space into 2 camps. Those who will support the US currency and those are turning their back on the greenback. It says global tensions caused by economic sanctions and trading conflicts triggered by Washington have forced targeted countries to take a fresh look at alternative payment systems currently dominated by the US dollar. So here we have the idea of alternative payment systems. And so based upon all the RTD news updates I did last year in reference to what France is doing, in reference to what China, Russia, all those nations there are looking for ways around the dollar using their own currencies, as well as cryptocurrency invention, national currencies, as well as alternative means of doing business by forming new alliances as well as bilateral trade agreements. And so scroll down some more. The very first country on the list is China. It says the ongoing trade conflict between the United States and China, as well as sanctions against Beijing's biggest trading partners, have forced China to take steps towards relieving the dollar dependence of the world's second largest economy. It says, moreover, instead of promptly dumping the greenback, China is trying to internationalize its own currency, the yuan, which was included in the IMF basket alongside the US dollar, the Japanese yen, the euro, and the British pound. Scroll down some more. As part of its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, China is planning to introduce swap facilities in participating countries to promote the use of the yuan. And the very next one here says India, ranked the world's 6th largest economy. India is one of the biggest merchandise importers. It says earlier this year, Delhi switched to the ruble payments on supplies of Russia's S-400 air defense system as a result of U.S. economic penalties introduced against Moscow. It says taking into account that India is the 3rd largest country by purchasing power parity, steps of this kind could considerably diminish the role of the greenback in global trading. And out of all the countries mentioned out of these top 5 here, I think India could be a major blow to the role of the dollar globally, given the fact of a lot of manufacturing companies looking to produce in India in the days ahead. Next country here says Turkey. Earlier this year, Turkish President Erdogan announced plans to end the U.S. dollar monopoly via a new policy that is aimed at non-dollar trading with the country's international partners. So the idea of basically not needing the dollar in their reserves anymore to do business with neighboring countries. Scroll down some more. It says the move was prompted by political and economic reasons. It says relations between Ankara and Washington have been deteriorating since the failed military coup in the country to oust President Erdogan in 2016. Hence what's happening in the Middle East in reference to the Syria situation and that natural gas pipeline that Russia's looking to move through the Middle East into Europe. It says Erdogan has repeatedly slammed Washington for unleashing a global trade war, sanctioning Turkey, and trying to isolate Iran. And the very next one, speaking of which, Iran. A triumphant return of Iran to the global trading arena did not last long. Shortly after winning the U.S. presidential election, Donald Trump opted to withdraw from the 2015 nuclear deal signed between Tehran and a group of nations. US, UK, US, France, Germany, China, Russia, and the EU, which are all nations working on alternative payment systems as we speak. And then the very last one, it says Russia. President Vladimir Putin said the U.S., quote, making a colossal strategic mistake, unquote, by, quote, undermining confidence in the dollar, end quote. It says Putin has never called for restricting dollar transactions or banning the U.S. currency. However, Russian finance minister said earlier this year that the country had to dump its holdings of U.S. treasuries in favor of more secure assets. So what do they mean by secure? We all know how our government has responded over the last couple of years when it comes to propping up and keeping the dollar as a primary reserve currency, i.e. 0% interest rates as well as quantitative easing. It's no wonder they're looking for more secure assets. And then lastly, it says once a top 10 holder of U.S. sovereign debt, Russia has all but eliminated its holdings of U.S. treasuries since Moscow has used the money to boost the nation's foreign reserves and to build up its gold stockpile to stabilize the ruble. So there you have it, the top 5 countries that have all began positioning themselves outside of the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar, hence the move of de-dollarization, which we're going to hear more of in 2019 and beyond as Washington continues to put pressure on all these nations, trying to continue to impose their influence over the world's monetary system as well as political issues outside of our own borders. These are reasons why we can anticipate hearing more news in reference to how nations are getting outside the dollar. And so as that last line mentioned about how Russia has pretty much dumped all their U.S. treasuries for the most part in pursuit of holding reserves outside of Federal Reserve notes. And in that very last line there, it said that they're holding gold. So just wanted to take a minute and shine some light on what's happening with the current reserve currency, aka the dollar. Would love to hear your thoughts on this matter. What do you think this is all heading, and how much more news do you think we're going to hear in the next few months as things begin to unravel in the global monetary system, especially news surrounding fiat currencies, aka the dollar? So other than that, hope all is well. Look forward to bringing more news updates. See you later.